Presenting Modern Indian History by Vision IAS. New Age content for New Age aspirants in 3 handy volumes. Discover engaging content featuring personal stories, iconic speeches, rare images, and even satirical cartoons for a unique learning experience. Balancing facts and analysis, these books draw from traditional sources while also incorporating in-depth research from modern historical works. These books offer a clear, cohesive narrative that connects all units and chapters in simple English. Timelines, flowcharts, and maps simplify complex events, boosting visualization and retention. Grab these volumes and master modern Indian history through self-study.
The UPSC CSE arena is an ever-evolving space where staying up to date becomes as crucial as maintaining a thorough preparation. With strategic planning and holistic coverage for exam syllabus, Vision IAS Delhi presents GS Foundation course. Avail analysis and integration of current affairs with GS syllabus. All India test series with an innovative assessment system, inculcating post-test analysis, discussion, all India ranking, and more. Explore the holistic learning modules intrinsically designed for the ideal aspirant.
Right. So, good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Himanshu Khatri, and we are going to do this masterclass, on answer writing. So, tell me your expectations. What are your expectations from this class? Accordingly, I'll, slightly modify what we are going to do. No expectations? Blissful life. A life free of expectations is the best life. How to write answers in points. Okay, so basically it's regarding, let's say, structuring of the answers, right? Or how to use the limited amount of, huge amount of information and to craft it into an answer. That will be the focus, right? So basically, these are multiple different kinds of questions. This PPT will upload, right? So these like sample questions. The thought process is that we have what? We are going to discuss 2 themes. One is the 1857 revolt, and the second one is related to the socio-religious reforms, right? And we have time of 3 hours, right? So therefore 75 minutes. Usually when we discuss, let's say any previous year questions, so usually we give approximately like 15 minutes, right? Or 12 minutes to a particular answer, okay? Now, the whole point is that from that perspective, multiple questions are there. So 6 into 15 ऐसा करके कहते हैं 90 minutes हो जाएगा, ठीक है? And और भी questions generate हो सकते हैं, probable questions. Then similarly, यहाँ पे भी multiple questions are present, right? So the whole point is that in many of the cases, what will happen, that whatever these are, ultimately every question is coming out of these 6 kind of like broader themes, okay? That is, if we are discussing the revolt of 1857, then very simple questions, that what all important developments or events led to the revolt. That is, if 1857 revolt is taking place, then there are certain causes of 1857 revolt. Then those causes, they can be looked at from conceptual perspective, or fine, maybe the answer, maybe the question requires us to structure those in form of, let's say, events, right? So fine, the heading will be of events, but the concept will remain the same, right? So first point, second point, third point, that will be in the form of events. We can structure it like that. Similarly, a conceptual theme or a way of UPSC asking such a question can be that please tell us, please organize your answer in the form of economic reasons, political reasons, social reasons, religious reasons. There what will happen is that the answer will remain the same, just that the structuring of the answer will be that A, we are organizing our answer in the form of economic reasons, and फिर वो जो events थे, they would have to be restructured as economic events or as social events or as political events. So you understand. So basically the core content from which the answer, if our notes are very, very organized, right, then our answers will also be automatically organized and we'll have the ability to structure it in whichever manner, right? And therefore the basic aspect of these things have to be clear. If they are clear, then things will be awesome. Then immediate cause. That is, whenever, this is also a way of organizing things. For example, if World War I took place in world history, so what were the long-term reasons for the World War I? What were the short-term reasons? That is, in the past 5-6 years, what happened before 1914? And then what was like the immediate cause? What was like the trigger for the World War I? Okay, like assassination of the Archduke and all of those things, right? So fine, that is also a way of organization, but ultimately simply jumble hoga yahan pe. Okay, and our organization will become long-term reasons for any 1857 revolt, let's say, short-term reasons and some trigger. So in the case of 1857 revolt, the trigger was the issue of cartridges. That the cartridges, they have cow and pig fat, right? But that does not mean that was the only reason. There would be multiple reasons, some long-term reasons, some short-term reasons, right? For example, short-term reasons in the 1850s, the Britishers, they reduced salaries of the sepoys. Right, so therefore that became like the short-term reason, but that was done since 1850s. As it was done only in 1857. Okay. Then first war of independence, that is 1857 revolt is there. So we are done with the causes. Now we are at the consequence part, and even after doing the consequences, an overall assessment that can you call the 1857 revolt as a war of independence? Then do we understand what is independence? And then do we understand what is war of independence? If you know that, then on the criteria developed, we can act like a judge who is passing a judgment on the 1857 revolt that, okay, these criterias were met, these criterias, they stayed unmet, and therefore on that basis we can take a call that whether it was a war of independence or it was not a war of independence. Okay. Then important events during the 1857 revolt. So what is the basic classification? If any topic is there, like 1857 revolt, so we should know very clearly why the event took place, how the event took place, and the consequences of the event. So this question is coming from where? That what were the important events during the 1857 revolt, that what happened during the 1857 revolt. And then consequences, the third part. Right, so UPSC will craft questions with the tough language, but ultimately there will be a combination of any of these 6 things. Right, so therefore to answer the questions correctly, we need to understand A, the mind of the UPSC. B, we understand that we need to be very, very organized with respect to our learning of any content. And most importantly, we should know the why aspect of every event. That is, we should not do any kind of rote learning, and only once we truly understand each and every small building block, only then we'll have the capability that, okay, it's like UPSC asks us to prepare some dish in the kitchen. So therefore you should know that in your kitchen what thing is placed, in which particular cabin. And then UPSC suddenly says, "Aaj paneer tikka khana hai," right? Right? Or UPSC says, "Today I want to have mushroom, mixed vegetable," right? So therefore, accordingly, in different proportion, you pick out things from different, and you should be very quick with it, because UPSC is not going to allow you huge amount of time. And therefore, during the UPSC phase, first you understand the ingredients, and then you understand the combination of different ingredients, and that's the whole journey actually. Okay, so it's a very good layman like analogy for that. So fine, let us see that was the 1857 revolt a spontaneous uprising, or was it the result of long-standing grievances? There's one question. discuss with reference to both socio-economic and political factors that shaped the rebellion. So what is the question here? The question here is only this part till the question mark. And then the UPSC is telling us थोड़ा नमक ज़्यादा डालना, ठीक है ना, और spicy भी चाहिए. माने कि there would be lot of other factors. Let's say that UPSC in this particular case is saying that out of your answer, discuss more, write more words on the socio-economic aspect and the political aspect. Right? This is a separate matter that fine और कोई aspects as such और थे नहीं, यही वाले aspects थे, social, political, economic फिर बच के आता है. But yes, at times UPSC can say discuss with reference to socio-economic aspects, full stop. So therefore, then in your answer, you would have to kind of like give very less mention of the political aspects and much more mention of the socio-economic aspects, right? So therefore, that would have been what you call as the good question. Good question in the sense, this is also a good question, but the point is that would have, made you learn something that, okay, this is how I need to approach, okay? So let's see. So was the 1857 revolt a spontaneous uprising or was it a result of long-standing grievances, right? So what I can do is I can give you a building block that is with respect to spontaneous uprising or a मैं यहाँ पे भी खोल लेता हूँ so that I am able to like structure my discussion accordingly. Right. So was the 1857 revolt a spontaneous uprising or was it a result of long-standing grievances? So till the point of time we do not understand the meaning of the word spontaneous, we can actually not answer this. So what is spontaneous? Anything which is not planned is called spontaneous. Whenever there is advanced planning, that my step 1 is going to be this, my step 2 is going to be this, that is called planned, right? So therefore, that's the whole thought process. So was there any plan or was it result of long-standing grievances, right? So in that particular sense, the whole point is that it's a twister. Twister how? If I go as per the basic definition of the word spontaneous, so basic definition is related to planning, but fine. English language is such a language that, it's not very clear. Clear means, matlab, it's at times the words they twist. For example, here spontaneous is primarily related with the word planning, but fine, it is giving another meaning to it that in terms of grievances also, were there any long-term grievances or one grievance took place and therefore that is only a trigger was there, right? So the question is this, that please tell us that whether any plan was there and second, whether any long-term grievances were there. This comes out to be the basic meaning of the word non-spontaneous. Spontaneous will not have any plan and spontaneous will not have any long-term grievances. Some trigger point will only be there. So that becomes the question. So first step is to understand the question, okay? So now if you talk about given the time limit, so what I'm going to do is that in this discuss with reference to both socio-economic and political factors. So इसमें I'll try to draw some structure. But सारे questions करने की कोशिश करेंगे so that student is able to understand the building blocks also and this thing, right? So answer of this particular question is that it was what you call as with respect to planning, it was spontaneous. But with respect to grievances, it was long term. Right? So therefore that will be your like broad theme of the question, right? So what were the grievances? Or what you can begin, how you can write the introduction. So introduction, it can be anything. Introduction at times, it can be simply what you call as a definition of the 1857 revolt, right? So the introduction, it can be like 1857 revolt was a Sepoy mutiny followed by civil rebellion, right? Followed by civil rebellion, right? And then you can begin your answer. So definition of 1857 revolt, it can also act as an introduction, right? Or at times what you can do is you can write your answer. Well, the conclusion aspect can also be written in the introduction aspect, that you can mention that 1857 revolt was a result of long-term and use the words of the question only. 1857 revolt was a result of long-term socio-economic and political factors or grievances caused by the British rule, right? And it resulted in a spontaneous mutiny followed by civil rebellion by the people of the plains or by the masses, right? So if ये भी एक introduction हो सकता है, and then you can mention that following were the grievances, and then you can organize them as social, economic, political. So that broad structuring is relatively easy part, right? Now, if I discuss what were the grievances of the 1857 revolt. Now, if we study it like this, if our notes are like this, then answering this question will also become easy. So, if 1857 revolt was basically what you call as sepoy mutiny and civil rebellion, right? Then first aspect is what were the grievances of the sepoys? Why are the sepoys doing mutiny? Okay. So within the sepoy mutiny, one of the aspect was their personal grievances, or what you can call is their service related grievances, because that's being a sepoy is a job. So therefore some grievances were related to their service. Then they also had certain grievances which were what you call as socio-religious grievances. Then they also had grievances which were what you call as political in nature, and they had certain grievances which were agrarian in nature. That means you can call it economic, but not related to selfish economy of because सिपाही का selfish economy होगा उसका wages, उसका भत्ता, right? So therefore it is non-selfish, but yes, economic aspect. Okay. And on the civil side, so this will provide structure to my answer. Okay. On the civil side, who is revolting? So further we can divide the civil side into A, which were leaders, and B, which are followers. Leaders, elite leadership was there. That means leadership was provided by what you call as Rajas or the feudal elements, Rajas, Mansabdars, that is ministers, right? Leadership was provided by Zamindars. So they provided the leadership. These are the elite sections of the Indian society. By the way, peasant revolts are of two kinds. A, which are called civil rebellion, and B, which are called peasant revolts. Peasant revolts are those revolts which are led by the peasants. Civil rebellion are those peasant revolts where follower is peasants, but leadership is of elites. Right? So that is why actually 1857 revolt is called civil rebellion, because their leadership was provided by elites like Bahadur Shah Zafar, Nana Sahib, Tatya Tope, Kumar Singh of Jagdishpur, who was an intermediary zamindar or a zamindar, right? Rani Lakshmi Bai. Okay, so therefore leadership it is of elite, if you notice. Followers are common man, that is the peasants. So it's a civil rebellion. Jat kingdom was also a result of civil rebellion because their leadership was provided by Churaman Jat, and in 1695 the peasants revolted under Churaman Jat. So Jat kingdom, aisa nahi hai that you have not read civil rebellion earlier. You have read civil rebellion earlier. Similarly, for example, in 1809 when Diwan Velu Thampi in Travancore revolted. So see, he is elite. He is revolting with the help of Nair troops and peasants. So that is also an example of civil rebellion. Okay, so therefore peasant revolts are of two kinds. Faraisi movement was a peasant revolt. Faraisi movement 1830s, very famous in Bengal, right? So their leadership, it is not very elite kind of leadership. Duddu Miya, Haji Shariatullah, these are the people, right, who are religious leaders. They are providing leadership. So peasant revolts are of two kinds: elite leadership and normal leadership. So therefore that's how it is civil rebellion. Okay. Now, so what are the grievances of the Rajas? So A, we can look at grievances of the what you call as the feudal class. Feudal class basically means kings. Second, we can look at grievances of the zamindars. And third, followers are also of two kinds. A, the masses, which are peasants, because our economy is agrarian economy, and B, artisans. Artisans who work in the handicraft sector. Okay, workers work in industrial sector. Artisans work in handicraft sector, because artisans they use their art and their hands to manufacture non-agricultural products, whereas workers they use their labor, physical hard work. Kala nahi, physical hard work. That's why industrious. That person is very industrious, बहुत मेहनती है, right? Hard working, right? So physical labor, worker, industry, industrial sector, whereas artisan, art, handicraft, hands, handicraft sector. So India economy was not industrialized economy, so artisans. So what are the grievances of the ryots or the peasants, and what are the grievances of, let's say, the artisans? Right? So this will form the basic structure of my answer. right? Obviously here, more focus, when you talk about feudal, issue is political. Political factor, feudal is political factor, right? And zamindar ke case mein, partially political, partially economic, right? We'll discuss how. And ryots and artisan, totally economic, right? And then there was a grievance, which is common to everyone, right? And that was basically related to feeling of our religion being under threat. And why that feeling is coming? Because from 1813 onwards, what is happening is A, convergence, and B, social reforms. Because of that, everyone felt that religion is under threat. And second aspect is, well, one component was of British land revenue policies also, which was related to religion, which I'll discuss. बहुत छोटा यहीं पे discuss कर लेते हैं. For example, the Britishers, they applied land revenue on mosques and temples, right? Revenue free tenures. That means if you are follower of a religious subsection, then for one season will not take any land revenue from you. This kind of situation used to be there before the British, but they ended the revenue free tenures. Ended the revenue free tenure. Tenure means time period. तो 3-4 seasons आते हैं तो एक season नहीं लेंगे, ठीक है, ऐसा छूट दे दिया, ठीक है, revenue free tenures, right? So therefore this is the broad structure. Okay, so this is what I do as a person who is writing this question in the exam. अभी we are in the preparatory stage, so therefore it takes time. हमारे शायद से short notes भी उस तरीके से ना बने हुए. Our short notes are also not in this particular manner, so it will take time. That's why my suggestion to students who are there in their first attempt is actually that fine, you give some exams like everyone gives some exam, but some of the tests you should write like an open book exam, whereby you take time, draw a fair kind of structure. Imagine that you have drawn this kind of structure, and then you look at this particular structure, and even if some revision is required, look at the question, you feel ki yaar, some of the topics now I don't know. No problem. There is no benefit of writing when you don't know anything, right? Until unless something very, you काफी बार ऐसा होता है, you have understanding of the core concepts, but then the question is a bouncer question. In that case, okay, on the spot you can come up with, for example, I had not prepared society and I gave Vision IAS test. That's like 2013. I was totally surprised that I got rank in top 3. Why? Because I used to prepare rest of the GS, the schemes, always from this particular perspective that, okay, how the interest of the poor sections of the society are, taken care of, how the interest of marginalized sections are taken care of. So when by chance मैंने कहा चलो लिख देते हैं अब, तो लिखा तो ठीक है, on the spot सोच, but basic building blocks पे because clarity was there, so fine, then you will be able to write. तो ठीक है, तो जो लोग ऐसा कहते हैं ना कि नहीं नहीं you should write answers, यूपीएससी में भी तो बाउंसर क्वेश्चन आता है, वो बाउंसर क्वेश्चन आप कर पाएंगे, you will be able to do those bouncer questions, but if your basic building blocks are strong, then fine, then you can do. But if your basic building blocks are itself not polished, then randomly writing tests which you do not know anything about, right, तो उसका कोई फायदा नहीं है, right? If you have not studied 1857 revolt, तो उसके ऊपर बाउंसर क्वेश्चन करने में क्या आपको मिल जाएगा? It's wastage of time. ठीक है, so therefore that's why I say that do this kind of an exercise and then look at the flowchart and then start writing. Then structure your answer that, okay, in my paragraph introduction हो गया, in my paragraph 1 I'm going to talk about social, political and economic grievances of the sepoys. Right, that may consume 2 paragraphs because sepoys were very important in 1857 revolt. And the balance of the 3 paragraphs, 2 paragraphs I'll give to civil, and 1 paragraph, my conclusion will be what you call as the grievance which is common to everyone. Right, so fine, my structure, it is clear. Now clear challenge is there, summarization. You can write a book also on 1857 revolt reasons. You can write an essay also on 1857 reasons. But now because you already know that, okay, itna sab content hai, and I have to bring this into 2 paragraphs. So therefore you become cautious with respect to usage of words. So while you are writing down, you try to come out with this thought that, okay, मेरे को ये सब लिखना है, इसको कैसे I weave it into a paragraph or into a sentence, right? And that's how your answer receives what you call as proportionality. right proportion. The answer checker will not be able to say that you have neglected some part. All of you must have seen toppers copies. When you read topper copies, but without this perspective, many of the times you feel, यार ये topper है. Simple सा ही तो सब लिखा हुआ है. Reason is what actually? Because you're looking only at the surface. Behind the surface, the mind is doing this. Behind the surface, the mind is trying to actually restrict all of these things into 2 paragraphs. And therefore that topper will mention, while crafting answer, he will mention such sentence that all key keywords, all key sub-themes are actually there in those 2 paragraphs. So that the answer checker is not able to say that any theme you have left. And by answer checker ko bhi pata hai that only 150 words were available or only 250 words were available, right? And when comparison will be done with other students, right, unke case mein proportionality will not be there. They will start talking about this 150 words will end. That is what happens with the first attempter who tries attempting questions. A major problem यही आता है. वो कह देते हैं कि highlight this also, highlight this also, highlight this also. But when you will be able to do that, जब आपको आंसर लिखने से पहले ही पता हो that okay ये मेरा structure है. So please get into the habit of developing a structure before you answer anything. Only then you will be able to achieve the proportionality part, the summarization part, वरना नहीं हो पाएगा. Many times हमारे साथ क्या होता है, हम तो question भी नहीं देखते हैं, ठीक है, कहीं पे लिखा हुआ है preamble, बस introduction of the people, for the people, by the people. And चलो preamble लिख देते हैं, ठीक है, ऐसा जो पता है उसके बारे में we simply start talking about that thing. नहीं, that should not be the thought process. We should always try to look at the demand of the question, right? So and identify, और वो तभी होगा when our notes are in a very organized form, right? So therefore please focus on notes making in an organized form. Please try to restructure things. Care. Now if I discuss it, so from the perspective of the Sipahi, service related grievances were there. Here one of the aspect was related to racism. And the aspect related to racism was that if I am an Indian Sipahi, my promotions will be slower, right? Plus my the highest post which I can reach is Subedar, which was actually student. All of you know this sentence, huh? Highest post that he could reach was Subedar. So tell me, how many of you ever thought, I'm not talking about finding the answer, ever thought that who is Subedar? हाँ नहीं, आंसर नहीं पूछा मैंने पूछा the step number 1 is how many of yours mind this question came that who is Subedar? Raise your hands if any. शर्मा कह रहे हो? This question should come into every person's mind. अगर नहीं आया तो यूपीएससी नहीं होने वाला. As simple as that. हाँ हाँ क्या कर रहे हो? आया था नहीं आया था दिमाग में? आया था तो हाथ खड़ा करने में कौन सी शर्म आ रही थी? पैसे ले रहा हूँ तुमसे हाथ खड़ा करने के, ठीक है ना? So first of all is always reward your inquisitive mind, because that is how many of the times UPSC generates questions in prelims. UPSC ने भी पूछा है what is the meaning of ulugulan? तो किसने कहा that UPSC does not, UPSC everyone studies Nadan Sarkars. हर किसी के माइंड में आता भी है what is सरकार? To the north of what? Right? स्पेक्ट्रम में नहीं लिखा तो छोड़ो ना, है ना? UPSC asked which of the following were one of the Northern Sarkars. So therefore, if you would have rewarded your curiosity, right, then frankly every student usually have this thing in mind कि पता नहीं क्या है, right? But because it is not mentioned, so therefore we stop. अब तो spectrum में आ गया होगा, because spectrum is all about what you call as adding content, right, later on, right? But always be curious. So Subedar is like junior commanding officer, today's GCO, right? So that means senior level rank पे नहीं जा सकते हैं, which used to give salary of just 50 to 60 rupees per month, right? Whereas if you're a British Sipahi, then you can become military general also. You can become commander in chief also, right? Salaries of British Sipahis were better. Pensions of British Sipahis were better. So that's how I'm subjected to racism, which is getting implemented in the economic aspect. Always try to think in the manner of the question. If the question has said, look at social factor, economic factor, Political factor. So this is a social factor which is impacting economic factor. Social factor racism, economic factor my promotion, my salary, my pension, right? Aisa. So that is one aspect. Second aspect was issue of salaries or emoluments or money. So Britishers, they behaved in a use and throw manner. With the Indian sepoys, they had actually either subordinated the Indian rulers or they had annexed 63% of territory by 1856. Okay, that came to be known as British India. And now they said, we have used you. Now we don't need you anymore. So we are going to reduce your salaries. So since early 1850s, the Britishers, to recover the huge war expenditure done in conquest of India, they reduced the salaries, right? So therefore, that became the issue. Example, their bhatta was ended. Bhatta is when you go outside of your region and you serve. So per day, you are given some amount of money apart from your salary. Even when you are in bureaucracy and if you are on a foreign visit, you get some per day allowance. Right? For example, if you go to US, you get roughly $100 per day, right? So what usually bureaucrats do, they save this money, right? And tax free, right? मस्त, ठीक है? तो ऐसा, तो वहाँ पे भी हम अच्छे से नहीं रहते हैं कभी-कभी, ठीक है? तो वहाँ पे पैसे बचाता है. खैर, anyways, so issue it is of service. These are service-related grievances. Then some issues were related to socio-religious and related to service, a combination. Example. Earlier, the Britishers, they used to respect the caste customs, right? But actually, as the size of the army expanded, therefore, someone is from lower caste, someone is from upper caste, someone is a Hindu, someone is a Muslim, right? So therefore, someone is a Sikh. So therefore, this kind of gradually, when mixture started coming up, so it became tough for the Britishers to follow food practices of everyone or religious beliefs of everyone. For example, let's say a particular group of soldiers, they want a havan to be conducted before going on the battlefield, right? That some kind of arrangement should be made in the cantonment for this ritual, for that ritual. So it became tough for the Britishers to follow all of these things. So they started implementing uniform culture. That is, if you are in military, then military culture is there and your culture will become secondary. Right. So therefore they said, we don't care for your caste customs, your religious customs. Example, they were forced to go abroad, which resulted in loss of caste for the upper caste Hindus, right? So that resulted in what you call as socio-religious grievances, right? So basically, socio-religious grievances basically means that caste customs, religious customs, they were not caste or religious customs, they were not followed anymore. Wearing of religious symbols, wearing of janeu, keeping a long beard by the Muslims. So these kind of things were not, कि symbolism भी नहीं चाहिए हमको. Right? So therefore, तुमको हम देखें तो लगना चाहिए you are a military person. That's it. आज के टाइम पे भी देखो, पाकिस्तान is a religion-based state, Islamic state, but their military generals, they do not keep the religious symbols of Islam. That is remnant of what you call as the British culture, जहाँ से वो आए हैं military. ठीक है ना? ऐसा. Political aspect, well, the revolt majorly took place in Bengal army, but who revolted? Pandes. Right? So therefore, it was a British practice that in Bengal army, they will not keep soldiers from Bengal. Right? So that's why Pandes, who are from UP, they were in Bengal army. Okay. Now, that formed 50% of the British Indian army. Bengal army was 50% of EIC army. So Pandes, they felt, or the people sepoys from Awadh, they felt that with our help, you conquered whole of India. You either subordinated with the help of subordinate alliance, or you annexed those territories, right? So you could have at least left Awadh. Any which way, half of Awadh you had taken over in 1801 as permanent payment of subsidy in the subordinate alliance, which was imposed by Henry Wellesley, younger brother of Richard Wellesley, right? So kam se kam ye आधा Awadh to छोड़ देते यार. This half of Awadh, why did you have to annex it? So therefore, when annexation of Awadh took place in 1856, so therefore this hurt what you call as the sentiments. Means modern Indian nationalism may not have been there at that point of time, but sub-nationalism in the form of regionalism was there. That Awadh is our region and it has been taken over. It is wrong. ये नहीं होना चाहिए था. Right? So therefore, it is related to annexation of Awadh, but technically it is what? It is actually what we call as regionalism. Regionalism. right? That you're proud of your Awadh, right? And this regionalism got impacted when Awadh is annexed in 1856, right? So fine, you craft it into one sentence. Then you come towards agrarian reform, right? Now, what will be develop the empathy? What will be the childhood of a sepoy, right? When he was born, right? So therefore, his mother used to, feed him while she was on the farm because his father used to work. Then gradually, as he became 3 year old, 4 years old, so he used to play in the farm while his mother and father used to work as cultivators, as youth. Right? As he became older, he used to take lunch to the father who was working in the farm. Right? And then maybe once he is 13 years of age, 14 years of age, isne bhi hal utha liya, and he used to help his parents in the farm. Right? And if you study psychology optional, your personality is crafted in the first 5 to 8 years of your age, especially values, etc. तो पहले तो आप किसान बने, सिपाही तो बाद में बने. That's why the books they say that every sepoy was peasant in uniform. माने if he'll remove his uniform, यहाँ लिखा होगा PEASANT, peasant. Right? Every sepoy, because उसका पूरा childhood up till 16 or 17 years of age, whenever he got into the army, till that point of time he was a peasant. Right? In fact, he was working as a peasant as part of family labor. Right? Karl Marx also said this, that peasants, they rely on family labor. That is why they do not have broader unity with the rest of the community. Therefore, the hero of my Marxist revolution will not be peasant. वो ज़्यादा family oriented है. That's why Marxism is anti-family. Marx does not like family. Right? So therefore, that thought process. So family labor, ऐसा. So my revolution will be done by working class. Right? On the factory, no family, thousands of workers working together, everyone is a brother. Right? This kind of scenario. So care. So he is a sepoy, but he is a peasant in uniform. And what he will be getting? The letter that he will be getting from home, as I say. So in that half of Awadh, which was taken over as permanent payment of subsidy in 1801, there the Britishers implemented Mehalwari settlement. In Mehalwari settlement, in most of the cases, Riyot was made owner of the land. In some of the cases, Zamindar was the owner of the land. So from those areas where Riyot is owner of the land, the problem is high land revenue. And then they have to take loans from the moneylenders. Moneylenders, they charge very high interest rate. Letters will be received by the sepoys that, son, please send more money. Otherwise, either our lands will be auctioned because of high land revenue, or the moneylender will come and take over our lands because we are not in a position to pay the EMI. That means landlessness. So how will a sepoy feel? That my employer for whom I'm ready to die, that employer is directly attacking my family back home. So therefore, that's the combination of economic factor, that is the British land revenue policies, right, impacting the psyche of sepoy. Why? Because I am a sepoy in uniform. Because I'm a peasant in uniform. So every book says this sentence, that sepoy was a peasant in uniform, right? So therefore my psyche, this will lead to disloyalty. Psyche, it leads to disloyalty. That family first or my employer first, right? So therefore that kind of scenario. So these are the reasons because of which the sepoy, he revolted. Trigger was of course this rumor, which was not untrue, that the cartridges, they have cow and pig fat. In English language, whenever you want to find the middle path between something which is false and something which is true, therefore you create not. Whenever you use two nots, that means you're trying to say that some truth was there. But not in every cartridge there is cow and pig fat. But yes, there were certain cartridges where indeed there was cow and pig fat. Right? So therefore, when you say he is not undemocratic, un is not is not. Right? So that leads to actually middle path. Right? So books, they say that this rumor was not untrue. That basically means we are not saying that in all the cartridges there was pig fat, but yes, there were certain cartridges where to save costs, certain factories were using cow and pig fat. Right? So care. So that's the trigger. So fine, you can end this particular paragraph by second paragraph, you can end by talking about the trigger. Right? So and ultimately, when rumor of cow and pig fat in cartridges, it unfolded, it resulted in Sepoy mutiny. So 2 paragraphs done. Okay. Then you come to this second part, right? This will be third. So then civil. So feudal elements, why did they provide leadership? Because, well, because of annexations, right? So Dalhousie and usse pehle jitni bhi annexations hui. So therefore these people, they had lost their political power. So it's a political factor that the king is no more a king. A queen is no more a queen. A mansabdar is no more a mansabdar. Why? Because who is mansabdar? He is a senior bureaucrat or a senior minister. Well, senior bureaucrat and senior minister now are going to be officers of East India Company. Right? So therefore that's why. ठीक? उतना डिटेल में नहीं जाना है. For example, Nana Sahib, his personal grievance was not loss of power to rule over Maharashtra. That happened way back in 1818. His grievance was when his father died, Bajirao II, 1796-1818, when his father died, Bajirao II. The pension his father was getting after annexation of Maharashtra in 1818, that pension was not continued for him because he was adopted son. These kind of, they become extra minute details. Right? So therefore, अगर आपका 150 words का है तो फिर आपको ये हटाना पड़ेगा. Similarly, Bahadur Shah Zafar was told that काय का emperor, from tomorrow you will call yourself prince. हाँ? और क्या लाल किले में रहते हो? निकलो, घर खाली करो, go to smaller kutub. Right? So that hurt the personal status, the personal dignity of Bahadur Shah Zafar. These kind of things, fine. You will not be having space to write here. But that does not mean that you should not know it. What if the question is of 250 marks? Then maybe as a filler, you would have to give certain examples, certain facts. You told na, sir, where to use facts. So these are like factual sentences. You decide that whether you want to go for concepts. आपका आंसर क्या ऐसा होना चाहिए जिसमें ये वाले facts हों पर एक concept miss हो जाए? Never. Always give much more importance to concept because of paucity of space. If there has to be made a choice between a factual information and a concept, because from a concept, 100 facts can come out, 100 examples can come out. Always focus on the concept. If you're still left with some space, then yes, you can do some, decoration with the help of facts. Right? And fine, try to insert 1 or 2 facts here or there, but not at the cost of concept. Right? Zamindars, well, in the case of the Zamindars, similarly, Rani Lakshmibai, that her adopted son was not accepted as, and all of that. Begum Hazrat Mahal, because she was Begum, wife of what you call as Nawab of Awadh. Right? So therefore, she is providing leadership, right? As a Zamindars, well, it is related to economic factor leading to that is land revenue system, leading to what you call as loss of what you call as economic factor, economic grievance, right? And it is also leading to what you call as social status also is coming down, and plus what you call as some political status is also coming down. And the reason for political status is forts, army, and second, rule of law. So what is this? I'll tell you. This is how your notes will become, right? When you are making that structure before writing the answer. Elaboration is in the mind, which I'm going to tell you. So with respect to Zamindar, when Mehlwari settlement is brought, so therefore in most of the cases what happened, the Ryot becomes owner of land. That means there is loss of lands or milkiyats for the Zamindars. That hurts their economic aspect, right? Social factor, for example, of course, if you're not rich anymore in the society, right? So therefore your social prestige is also going to come down, right? कि क्या हाल हो गए हैं, है ना? ऐसा. Political factor, British believed in centralization of power in the state. So they said, only state will have AK-47. As a Sanju Baba cannot keep AK-47. Otherwise, Tada will apply. ऐसा, ठीक है ना? Maybe hero of the people, but AK-47 not allowed. Why? Centralization of power in state. Only state should be the tiger in the domain of the state. And law and order, guns, they are domain of the state. Right? That's why Britishers, they demolished forts of the intermediary Zamindars of Awadh. They also disbanded the private armies of the Zamindars. That really hurt their political status. Right? They were also referred to as Rajas by the local people. Although they were not kings, right? But in the Indian system, if the status is good, you call them Rajas. Okay. Similarly, rule of law. The Britishers, they said rule of law, equality before law. So it does not matter that whether you are zamindar or a riyat. If you have committed a crime, you have committed a crime, right? So imagine social status. Imagine that I am a zamindar, right? And the police, पहले क्या होता था किसी को, if I have killed someone, right? Fine, some blood money I'll give, and that's okay, right? गुस्सा आ गया, ठोक दिया. But अब गुस्सा आ गया और ठोक दिया. So imagine police is taking me like this, right? And you people are laughing at me. See, how will I feel? Huh? राजा होता था मैं. ठीक है ना? This kind of scenario, right? So political status is down, social status is down. So use keywords like rule of law, disbanding of private army, destruction of forts, right? So therefore these are the keywords. Then riots. Riots grievance is, as I told you, it is related to land revenue system. That is either oppression. Ultimately it is about landlessness. So in the Mehalwari system, I'm talking about Mehalwari because primary center was central provinces and united provinces where Mehalwari was there. Mehalwari was there in central provinces, united provinces, Punjab. C, U, P. Mahal, Taj Mahal, chai. Chai in a cup. C, U, P. Central provinces, united provinces, Punjab is equal to Mehalwari settlement. Okay. And majorly the revolt was there. So ultimately it is about landlessness. You are either losing lands in the government auction or you are losing land to the money lender. तो यहाँ हुआ क्या? यहाँ धोखा हुआ. एक हाथ से जमींदार की जमीन लेके किसान को दी. That is gave property rights to the kisan, to the riyat. And then because of high land revenue, because of operation of the money lender, from the second hand, you are taking away this land from this particular person. Right? So ultimately what is happening here is, see, whenever any revolt takes place, and this is going to be the conclusion of this, right? Very good conclusion can be, any revolt takes place, this is like a brilliant concept. Any revolt takes place when two people, they get together. The leader and the follower. If they are together, then the revolt will take place. Now, very interestingly, Britishers ne socha tha that by giving lands to the riots, the masses will be loving us. They'll write us love letters. Huh? I love you, British. I love you, British. And therefore, let us destroy the leaders and gain the loyalty of the masses. That is the thought process of divide and rule. But here what happened is, leader to sad hai because his milkiyat has been given to the riots. But ultimately, riyat is also sad because of landlessness. So therefore, riyat looks at zamindar. Zamindar like, ho gaya. बहुत खुश हो रहे थे. Right? So therefore, both will come together and revolt will take place. And wherever this combination was not there, there the revolt did not take place. Example, the same books, they say that those zamindars whose estates were not taken over did not revolt. Those kings whose kingdoms were not annexed did not revolt. Ho kya raha hai? Their leader is happy with the British, not angry with the British, therefore does not give leadership to the follower. Both needs to be sad, only then revolt takes place. Right? Books यही कहते हैं. In the case of Punjab, for example, the revolt did not take place. ये आप आंसर में नहीं लिखेंगे, मैं आपको additional बता रहा हूँ. I'm building the background for the next question actually. ठीक है? In the case of Punjab, what happened? The people, they were happy. At least a section of them were happy. Which section? Those who were middle class riots. They were happy because of canals. In 1850s, canals were introduced in Punjab. When canals are introduced, water reaches from the rivers to the agricultural fields. And therefore, increase in incomes take place. Water rates were high, so kuch gussa hai. But otherwise, overall things are good. At least for a section of the masses. That is middle class riots. So therefore, there the revolt does not take place. Why? Because even if the leader wants to revolt, the followers are okay. And leaders are also happy in Punjab. Because in 1857, a revolt, and the princes, they were pro-British only, right? So there, that thing does not happen. Similarly, in the case of Madras, why the revolt does not take place? In the case of Madras, revolt should have been most strongest on the sheet. You know why? Because in Madras, which land revenue system is there? Riyatwari. And in Riyatwari, the Riyat, the common man, is in direct interface with the state. Because taxes are always paid by owner of property. These are some basic principles, basic building blocks of UPSC or law, which you should know. taxes are always paid by property owner. Example, in your case, property tax is not paid by you. It is paid by your landlord. You are tenant who pays what? Rent. To who? To the government. No. To the property owner. Landlord chodo, a property owner pe aao. Think in these words. Right? So therefore, wherever Ryotwari is there, that is wherever Ryot is the owner of land, you are in direct interface with the state. And we know that the British state was oppressive. Right? There you cannot put blame on Zamindar. Zamindar is oppressing us. Your revolt will not be against Indian Zamindar. Why? Because you are in direct interface with the state. State is oppressing you. So वहां तो सबसे ज्यादा होना चाहिए था. Right? तो वहां क्यों नहीं हुआ? दो कारण है. Two reasons आते हैं. बॉम्बे में नहीं हुआ, Madras में नहीं हुआ. क्यों? In the case of Bombay, for example, actually it takes time. Step number 1, I introduced Ryotwari. Step number 2, you as a Ryot are very happy. Why? Because you just became owner of land. Step number 3, you feel the pinch of high land revenue. Step number 4, you feel the pinch of high interest rates on the loans which you have taken from moneylender to pay the land revenue. Step number 5, then your land get auctioned, right? Because of non-payment of LR, or your land is taken over by moneylender. But to reach these 5 steps, some decades are required. Time is required, right? So you notice a pattern. Everyone studies modern history. Revolts do take place in Bombay, but they take place in 1860s, in 1870s. And Bombay was annexed when? In 1818, Third Anglo-Maratha War. So 1830s गया, 40s गया, 50s गया, 3 decades गया, तब जाके मतलब threshold level grievance is crossing the threshold, मतलब grievance is crossing the threshold, and then revolts do take place, but it takes time. That is one common aspect with respect to Ryotwari. It's commonsensical, right? Because वो pain इकट्ठा होने में time लगेगा. In the case of Madras, Ryotwari was introduced since 1801. Spectrum is wrong when it says 1820. It was introduced in 1801. Then कुछ suspension आया था. Then again it was reintroduced in 1820, right? Both times by Thomas Munro. Just that in 1820 Thomas Munro was governor of Madras. In 1801 he was simply a senior officer who convinced the court of directors to bring Ryotwari there. So वहाँ पे time ज़्यादा बीत चुका है. 1800s have gone, 10s have gone, 20s have gone, 30s have gone. तो यहाँ तो revolt should have been maximum. Right? What is the difference between what we discussed here in the case of Mehelwari and this Ryot is owner of land? He is under stress. So there the issue is what? There the issue is in 1855. So lucky for the British, they brought Madras Torture Commission report. Look at the name of the commission, Torture Commission. That means the Britishers, luckily for them, whatever were the grievances of the common man, they resolved it before 1857. And that is why the people in Madras, the Hindu articles are there, you can Google search, whereby they try to say कि ऐसा नहीं था, that nothing happened. So, but not of that extent that it will make part of books. Right? Why? Because lucky for the British. 2 साल और torture हो जाता अगर. Had torture been there for 2 more years, then Madras would have participated fully. Right? So therefore, these are the details. Right? Depending on the question, इस वाले question में ये सब चीजें नहीं आएंगी. But yes, broadly you can mention. Yeah, please. Correlation is revolt takes place. Any revolt takes place when leader and follower, both of them, they come together. If either one of them is not present, then the revolt will not take place. That is, even if the peasant followers, they revolt, because no leader is there, so therefore their actions will be very unorganized. Right? There is no leader who is saying, stop, run, go there. No one is doing, and chalo, it will be useful in the next question. Right, next to next question, but I'll give answer to your question and I'll provide you building block also. So one thing is very, very important. On the left hand side, modern nation, and on the right hand side, modern politics. This is actually, if you are a judge, you will give judgment looking at the law. You will look at the action and you will compare it with the law. This is your law. For the question, was 1857 revolt a war of independence? Because independence for who? For the people. People matlab nation. right? So nation is summation of people. Nation is not territory. Nation is equal to summation of people who feel one, equal, and supreme. Supreme means no one can dominate the people. Liberty, equality, fraternity. This idea comes from French Revolution of 1789, right? It has great impacts. It leads to what? In polity, it leads to what you call as democracy. If people are supreme, how can a family, randomly rule? It leads to republic. It leads to meritocracy. राजा का ही बेटा राजा कैसे होगा? Meritocracy. In economics, it leads to capitalism and socialism both. Differences हैं आपस में, but core intent of capitalism as well as socialism is giving power to the people. Example, in capitalism, every person should have right to property, security of property, right? Every person should have freedom of enterprise, that is freedom of starting any business. Why the concentration of economic wealth should be there in the hands of the elites, mansabdars and the kings? Everyone should have opportunity to be rich, right? Why? Because people are supreme. So how can you keep them perpetually in poverty? Right? So both socialism and capitalism are against poverty for the masses. हाँ, थोड़ा सा method में difference है, but ultimately capitalism and socialism both, their intent is this only. In society, it leads to equality, that is no birth-based positives, no birth-based negatives. No birth-based positives, no birth-based negatives. Everyone is born free and equal, said Declaration of Independence, 1776. Right? Similarly, French Revolution also said the same thing. Okay? So therefore, equality. No birth-based, no casteism is a result of your whole Constitution of India is based on creating this idea of modern nation. No discrimination on the basis of gender with respect to payment for work. Right? Similarly, ultimately all of this focus here. Modern politics, it's very interesting. Anything which is done in organized manner, only that is success. Okay? So therefore, modern politics, what is the thought process? Ideology should be clear. That is, what do you stand for? Clear ideology. Once your ideology is clear, then you try to implement that ideology by giving some concrete goals. Right? So it leads to what you call as, next comes clear goals. Then next comes clear plan. Plan is long term to achieve these goals. But आज क्या करना है? That is basically clear program. Plan is 5-year plan, 10-year plan. Where do you see after 5 years? पूछते ना इंटरव्यू में. तो आज क्या करना है फिर? What to do today? That's program. Clear program. Okay. From clear program comes out what? What you call as, there should be, to do all of these things, there should be a clear organization. There should be an organization. And this organization should be under a strong central leadership. Strong leadership. So this organization, this strong leader will define ideology, will define goals, will make plan, will make program, right? And there should be unity among the members of this organization, so that whatever the plan is made, that is followed by the members of the organization. Unity among members, right? And then voice should be there. That is, the leader, the organization should use media and other things to highlight this is what we stand for, this is what our goals are, these are our program, aisa, right? Voice should be there. So therefore, today you notice that every political party has a website, right? The manifesto which they bring before the elections, it is, what do they stand for? What are their goals? If they come to power, what they will do, right? So therefore, voice is there. Right? So that's why moderates, for example, they set up INC in 1885 and then they gave voice. बहुत लिखते थे लोग, pen, editorials, petitions, right? Why? Voice, right? So voice is basically in the form of media. And voice to what? Voice is basically to all of the above. What do we stand for? What are our goals? What are our plans? What is our program? Right? Aisa. Please join us. Right? So therefore, that's the whole thought process. So this is the basic structure, right? This is the basic structure. Now, dear, what was your question? The relationship between The leader and this follower. So I'll answer that, but I misunderstood the question, but fine. This is in line with our class. It will help us in what you call as answering the future questions, right? But this broad thing, it is there, right? So there has to be leader who does, even if formal organization is not there. Example, in 1857 revolt, there was no name of any political party. But still, these things are to be done, which were done by the leaders. So that's why leaders are required. Otherwise, only if the followers, they want to revolt, the revolt will be a failure. Right? So leader का काम है ये सब चीजें करना, है ना? खैर, your question, answer to your question is that initially the followers, that is the people, they'll be happy because they became owners of land, because Zamidar's lands were taken away and given to each one of you. Let's say you are Riyat, but then you are the property owner now, so you'll pay the tax. Tax is called land revenue. If the Britishers, they demand very high land revenue from you, then you will not be able to pay that land revenue. So what will happen? The government officers will come and they will auction your land. It's a long process. Yeah. So in the case of Northwest provinces, they were annexed in 1801. Okay. So that is half of Awadh. Right. Mehalwari was introduced there in 1822. But broadly, since 1801 itself, we can say that land revenue based oppression, right, either of the zamindars or of the common man would have begun. Okay. In the case of Awadh in 1856, they went with what you call as, actually people of Awadh were already on the verge of revolt because of very high land revenue under Nawab of Awadh. Why? Nawab of Awadh was under very high subsidy demand. Therefore, to pay the subsidy for the subordinate alliance signed in 1801, he was charging very high land revenue from the common man. Peasants were on the verge of revolt. That is why was Awadh annexed? Who will tell me? Why was Awadh annexed? You tell me. Why was Awadh annexed? Mic का सहारा लेते. Check my check. हाँ. Why was Awadh annexed?
Maladministration.
Maladministration. What do you mean by maladministration? Mal, bad. Administration, governance. Good governance?
Good governance means
Bad governance. Maladministration means?
bad governance.
Bad governance. Bad governance. What is bad governance? That your land revenue policies are such that peasants are on the verge of revolt, Mr. Nawab of Awadh. So we are taking over Awadh on grounds of maladministration. So peasants were already on the verge of revolt. And then the Britishers, they brought something called summary settlement. What do you mean by summary settlement? Summary settlement basically means that without application of any mind, summarily you told everyone, you pay this much, you pay this much, you pay this much. Time nahi na? Because field survey ke liye time is required. That you do survey of each and every field, that this is the level of irrigation. You know, usually this is a crop that you sow. कुआं खुदा हुआ या नहीं खुदा हुआ, कोई कैनाल है या नहीं है, it requires time. So summary settlement. What is the meaning of the word summary in summary settlement? That is without application of much mind, randomly you are telling people, you pay this much, you pay this much. Right? Now you got your answer? Right? Huh? Yeah, summary settlement in the case of Awadh, which was annexed in 1856, and Mehalwari settlement in the case of that part of Awadh, which was annexed in 1801. Right? So ultimately the grievance boiled down to the same point. Right? Yes, sir. ठीक है ना? तो खैर, this is your structure which we'll use in the next question. खैर, coming at, so Riyadh's landlessness, here you simply mention that because of the Mehalwari settlement in northwest provinces and because of summary settlement, there was loss of land either in the auctions or to the money lenders because of indebtedness. This is how you use certain keywords like auction, indebtedness, money lender, and you wrap it up in what you call as one sentence or essay. Artisans, well, here you mention, you beat the books here. How? You simply mention that actually the 1813 charter, it opened Indian economy to non-EIC British businesses, right? They are manufacturers who have machines with them, and therefore they can manufacture goods which are cheaper in price. Not better in quality initially, but later on better in quality also. So therefore, दीपिका जी आइए आइए, जब कम दाम में ये मिले तो कोई ये क्यों ले, ये ना ले. That famous ad. So therefore, when as a common Indian person you will go to the shop, you will not buy the costlier good made by hands by the Indian artisan. You will buy the British machine manufactured product. As a result, the economy of the artisan's household will be devastated, right? Artisan would be like, fine, I'll throw my tools away and I will do physical hard work now. But he will search for a factory, but because the Britishers, they did not do industrialization of India, so they will not be able to find a factory also. Therefore, ye bichara kya karega? He will go back to his village and he'll ask for share in property. And therefore, agriculture sector will be overburdened, right? And this is how they are also under trouble. So link of 1813 charter, if you mention that, since you can mention Charter Act of 1813 opened up Indian economy to British manufacturers, which hurt the livelihood of artisans. One line, done. But you have done better than other students. How? By mentioning 1813 charter, which usually the books they do not mention, right? So therefore that's how the role of keywords. Keywords के पीछे में शायद दिमाग होता है. Never follow this blind copy person that toppers say try to insert as many keywords as possible in your answer. There's a rationale, and the rationale is space is less. I have only one sentence to say, so let me try to say it in such a manner which will have certain keywords क्योंकि I have positive of space. क्या करूँ मैं? ठीक है ना? So that's the rationale behind keywords. ऐसा randomly keywords throw करोगे और कोई meaning नहीं है तो उसको कोई logic नहीं. ठीक है ना? तो ऐसा. And then there were grievances which were, so therefore ऐसा. And then grievances which were common to all. So everyone felt that the British rule is immoral. Immoral, अच्छा हाँ. So therefore third aspect, ये last point हम बनाएंगे, that is immoral. Immoral. So conversions, fine. After 1813, conversions used to take place under police protection. Social reforms, right? So people are feeling that their religion is under threat. But here small brain thing is there, right? If you understand that, then you'll actually be able to make this sense. Social reforms, so why should anyone feel that their religion is under threat? Social reforms are good things. Huh? Because, wait, mic ले लो, mic हमने रखे, mic दो. अरे mic उनके पास. हाँ.
Sir, because of some of the practices and customs which they followed, the Britishers changed them.
Very good. Very good.
This was one of it.
Any other reason? There is one small other reason also.
Sir, taxing religious institutions.
That's there. That's our one point. So that's one aspect. Ki, they are putting tax on our God or our institutions, so therefore they want to hurt our temples. That is one aspect. Third, एक और है छोटा सा चीज. You want to say something? Yeah. Arey, he wants to say something. Okay. Yeah.
Sir, Indians were orthodox and exclusive.
नहीं, ऐसा नहीं था. We are not orthodox. We are much better society than the British. British खुद ही कहते थे until 1700s that ancient India is great. हाँ, there were some social issues that was there, but we were awesome, right? They are the inferior civilization. Yeah. The issue is, how do you convert anyone? नहीं, answer मैं दे रहा हूँ. How do you convert anyone? The step number one, this person is very deeply attached with his religion, right? So therefore step number one to convert is break this bond between this person and religion. And how does a person feels that I am very religious? By following religious symbols, by keeping fasts on the designated days, by doing parikramas, right? By going for Hajj, right? Or by doing havan, yagya on specific things, right? When we follow our rituals, right, in a very strong manner, punctual manner, it is then that we feel in our own eyes that we are true to our religion. That is the purpose rituals serve, right? So therefore, when we feel that we are not doing anything which is barred by our religion, when we feel that we have followed our religion truly, that is when we feel that we will one day achieve nirvana, will one day go to heaven, right? If I bring laws, that is when state uses its legislative power to prevent you from doing that. Therefore, you will feel that your religion is a threat. Why? Because now you yourself as a Hindu or as a Muslim don't feel that you are going to heaven. Because things which are required to be done on a daily basis or in periodic basis, you're not allowed to do that, right? Or you are not doing that, right? So step number 1 is break the bond between person and his rituals. Break the bond between person and his religion. Everyone needs God. So don't worry, my son, may God bless you. Comes the Christian missionary. My God, unko in sabse problem nahi. Come on. And at the end of the day, so many problems are there in life that for the majority of the people, God is required. Right? So that's a thought process. So A, make you feel that you are a lesser Hindu, you are a lesser Muslim. You're not a true Hindu, you're not a true Muslim. And then step number 2, pursue conversion. Right? So therefore, because of social reforms, the people, they felt that we are not allowed to be close to our religion. We are made to do such things which are antithetical to our religion. Hindu Widow Remarriages Act, right? For example, Shekhar Bandyopadhyay says that ultimately the Orthodox Hindus, right? Orthodox means those who do not want to change, right? They were able to prove, as per Shastras, that Hinduism does not allow widow remarriage, right? And because they became very famous, this debate was very, very famous. So now those people who are doing this good thing of widow remarriage, they also stopped doing widow remarriages. Right? So therefore, that's the thought process. That's the only small thought process. Otherwise, it's a normal question in the minds of the students that social reforms हैं, तो क्या हम इतने backward हैं that if someone is doing social reform, so will feel that our religion is under threat, है ना? मतलब कोई अच्छी चीज हमको तो डरा रही है. Are we that kind of people? No, that's not the thought process. The thought process is that that's why these kind of social reformers are considered good social reformers who try to do reforms, but by telling you that by reforming, you're coming close to your religion. You're not going away from your religion. Example, Raja Rammohn Roy tried to use Upanishads to prove that Hinduism follows monotheism. Right? Swami Dayananda Saraswati used Vedas, right, and said that reform. And he was a radical social reformer. So when my reformer is someone like Swami Dayananda Saraswati, someone like Swami Vivekananda, someone like Raja Rammohn Roy, I will not feel that I'm going away from my religion. I'll feel that by reforming, I'm coming more closer to my religion. So therefore, no problem. Then I'll not feel that my religion is under threat. Right? But for that, the social reformer needs to come to people. Whereas most of these social reformers before 1857, especially, they did not go to the people. They went to Dalhousie. They went to Bentinck. They wanted to use the power of the state to bring reform rather than change the heart of the people. That's why. So, that's a small link which is there with respect to social reforms and with respect to convergence. Temples, taxes. Temples used to be allocated lands for their upkeep, and they were not taxed. But the Britishers, they said, we want taxes. Right? Similarly, ended revenue-free tenures and ultimately immoral. Everyone felt that be it economics, be it society, be it politics, whatever has happened in India after the British rule has begun, it is all adharm. Adharm means immoral. Immoral means unethical. Right? So as a common man of India, when I look at my Rajas, those people who I used to feel are the number one people of my society, I may be unhappy with them, I may be happy with them, but एक औ थी राजा, है ना? उनका क्या हाल कर दिया हमने, सड़क पे आ गए, है ना? Zamindars, traditional leader of rural society, Zamindar, Every book says traditional leader of rural society. A leader cannot always be oppressor, my friends. I know when we read Marxist books, so therefore we tend to develop this thought process that zamindars are always oppressive. But a person who is always oppressive cannot be what you call as leader of the rural society. He has to be positive also in some of the cases. Right? So जो मेरा ट्रेडिशनल लीडर है रूरल सोसाइटी का, वो देखो जमीन पे आ गया, साइकिल पे जा रहा है, ट्रेन मैंने कहा, अरे इंटरमीडिएट जमींदार आप, कहता हाँ, माई फोर्ट्स वर डिस्ट्रॉयड, माई आर्मी वॉज डिसबैंडेड, माई लैंड्स वर टेकन अवे, है ना. तो क्या हालत करती है यार. लुक एट आवर आर्टिजन्स, दे डोंट हैव फूड टू ईट, राइट. लुक एट आवर रियोत, है ना, देयर लैंडलेसनेस, be it permanent settlement, be it रियोतवारी, be it महलवारी, ultimately the cultivator is not having control over land. क्या हो क्या रहा है यार, what is happening? Look at our religion is in threat. मतलब जो हो रहा है सब बेकार हो रहा है, immoral. So this was immorality that is on the basis of ethics, and on the basis of religion under threat. ये था एक common grievance of every section of the society. Right? So therefore on that particular basis you will answer this particular question. Right? Then the second aspect of the question, if I go towards, so we'll try to pick up a question which allow us to talk about the other aspect. So how did the diverse participation of various social groups, peasants, artisans and sepoys and local rulers affect the nature and outcome of the 1857 revolt? See, half of this question we have already discussed, right? Only the aspect. So nature means who provided leadership, right? Who was the follower? So that's the nature, right? Nature, unity. The sepoy felt united with peasant. Why? Because he was peasant in uniform, right? Then nature, the sepoys, they went to their traditional leader, elite. Where? Delhi. Every sepoy who revolted, he went to Delhi. That, hey, Bahadur Shah Zafar, hey, Netflix देखना बंद कर, चल खड़ा हो, ठीक, stand up, right? Why? Because कोई ruling तो हो नहीं रही थी उस time पे, right? So fine. So therefore, you are our leader. Every leader was forced to take up leadership. Even Rani Lakshmibai was initially hesitant. She was also threatened. Nana Sahib was also threatened. Bahadur Shah Zafar was also threatened, right? So therefore, nature is that people, followers are forcing the leaders to take up leadership. That be our leader, right? That is one after that. So why do the sepoys they go to Delhi? Because they are trying to go to traditional elites of the society, right? That's the nature, right? Then outcome of the 1857 revolt, how it was impacted. Let us go towards what you call as consequence aspect, right? Outcome एक चीज हमको डिस्कस करना है. Second, could a more unified leadership have changed the result? Unified leadership, modern nation is summation of people who feel one unified leadership, okay? Unified leadership change the result. To what extent can the 1857 revolt be considered the first war of independence? Independence means modern nationalism must be present. Then we'll call it war of independence. And in what ways was it more of a localized uprising against British authority? Localized uprising, that part, the consequence, why it failed, right? So that aspect we will cover. ठीक? So, nationalism वो भी हो जाएगा उसमें. तो now let us come towards what you call as how of the revolt, events of the revolt, right? So broadly, when you discuss the events of the revolt, so what happened is that the verbally I will tell you. So the sepoys, Mangal Pandey revolted in March 1857. After that there was quiet. Then on 10th of May in Meerut, the sepoys they revolted, and the first thing that they did, they went to Delhi and forced Bahadur Shah Zafar to start the, to lead the revolt. That's 11th of May. Then from 11th of May until 31st of May, many other cantonments also revolted. Parallelly, once the people came to know that army has revolted, so we also got confidence that now no one will kill us because the soldiers have revolted. So therefore the civilian population also revolted. Leadership was provided by feudal elements and zamindars. And this is how Sepoy mutiny followed by civil rebellion. So these are the events which are happening. Some of the other aspect of the events we'll discuss as part of the consequences, right? So therefore, if this particular question comes that why the revolt failed, right? That is one of the consequence aspect which is there, right? So multiple aspects are there. For example, first aspect is with respect to, let's say, leadership. Second aspect is related to participation. Participation, one aspect is regional participation. Second aspect is section participation. Third aspect is army participation. Fourth aspect is certain things which were what you call as strategy and tactics. Within strategy and tactics, one aspect it is of planning. Second aspect it is of what you call as guerrilla warfare. Third aspect is Delhi. Fourth aspect it is related to technology, right? Technology it is related to railways. Technology it is related to railways, it is related to telegraph network, right? And another aspect it is related to strategy and tactics participation. Another aspect is related to point number 6 is training organization aspect it is there. Seventh, technology, and another aspect you can say is what you call as supply of what you call as weapons, ammunitions, etc. So broadly, why there was failure of the revolt. In this section, we will be able to cover the first war of independence aspect also. We already have this structure with us. That is on the left hand side, modern nation, right? And on the right hand side, organization. Okay. Now, why the revolt failed? Okay. And was it a first war of independence? Why revolt failed? And was it war of independence? Was it war of independence? These two aspects we are going to see, right? First of all, leadership. So what was the issue? The issue was strong central leadership was not there. That means on the left hand side, this thing, on the right hand side, strong leadership. See, this criteria we are failing. Why? Because there were multiple leaders in different regions. As a result, let's say all of you are participants in the revolt. All of you are participants in the revolt. When I am your only leader, so therefore I tell you attack there, then move there, right? So therefore you are following my commands. So we are acting as one force. But if there are multiple leaders, then you are not able to act as one army. You're actually summation of multiple armies, but not one army of civilians, right? So therefore we lack strength. Multiple regional leaders are there. No one person is in command. Therefore that weakens our strength. That is one aspect. Symbolically, yes, Bahadur Shah Zafar. but otherwise in practice no one leader. Okay, different regions under different feudal leaders. Okay, so leadership was weak, right? So when no strong leader is there, that also gives us, no one leader is there, that also gives us bad marks in nation is summation of people who feel one. So oneness तो one leader भी होना चाहिए था. मतलब people of Lucknow should have also said कि नहीं नहीं बहादुर शाह जफर, right? कि नहीं नहीं Kanpur should also said नहीं नहीं बहादुर शाह जफर, but that did not take place. That has consequences with respect to military effectiveness also. Then with respect to participation, regional participation, as I hinted to you, from the perspective of people, Bengal did not participate. Students, they have this doubt. So revolt began in Bengal army, but then why do the books they say that Bengal did not participate? Bengal army is different and Bengalis are different, right? So Bengal army participated, but not Bengalis. Why they are not participating? Divide and rule, right? So one element comes, divide and rule. Divide and rule in PS 1793. After the Permanent Settlement Act of 1793, the zamindars were made big landowners by Cornwallis. And since then, the zamindars, that is the traditional leader of the rural society, that is the traditional leader of the rural society. Leader और follower कहाँ गया? यहीं पे कहीं भी लगा हुआ था मेरे. हाँ, traditional leader of the rural society was pro-British. Right? So see, one element is not available. So therefore, the Bengal was quiet. And second thing, the common man was more, for the common man, the villain was zamindar. So you revolt against your villain. Why? Because the common man was rent payer, not taxpayer. Rent is paid to non-state actor. Taxes are paid to state. Right? So these are the two reasons because of which Bengal is quiet. Then Madras, I told you that there, Madras Torture Commission report, 1855. So luckily for the British, timely intervention. In the case of Bombay, well, grievances had not crossed a threshold level and people were relatively, comparatively not that sad that they would have revolted. Punjab, people are happy with canals, right? So therefore, regional participation can be explained by what you call as Ryotwari, that Ryot is owner of land, and regional participation, third aspect that it can come is, for example, canals in the case of Punjab, right? So fine, these three aspects, they are there. With respect to section, so for example, those simple hai, those sections, it is selfishness. Here we get bad marks in unity actually. Here we get bad marks in unity if you notice, right? If all the regions are not participating, that means bad marks in unity. That's why not first war of independence, right? Law ye hai. If we are able to see all of these things, then we'll say first war of independence, right? If not, then not. And maybe somewhere 60% first war of independence, 40% not war of independence. That is also quite possible. So then we come back to this section. So those zamindars who did not lose their milkiyats, they did not participate. Those kings who did not lose their kingdoms, they did not participate. Right? Those sections which benefited too, he did not participate. Western educated middle class. Western educated middle class ka dekho bhai. Moja hai moja. Earlier, who used to be judge? Pandits and Maulvis, Qazis and Muftis. They were judges. Now he aspires to be judge. In 1833, judiciary was opened to Indians. After 1853, ये तो टाई वाई बांधे खड़ा है शीशे के सामने. This is how I'll speak in interview. Because UPSC exam is introduced in 1853 and that exam can be given by Indians also. है ना? So earlier, now who is a bureaucrat? Who is IAS officer? In the Mughal time, what is the name for IAS officer? Mansabdar. Mansabdar. Common man kahan ban sakta tha Mansabdar? Now he is trying to be Mansabdar. Right? That maybe one day, who are Mansabdar? Senior bureaucrats, and then you rise up to being a minister. Right? And Western educated, so he has read about democracy. So he's like, maybe first I'll become senior bureaucrat and after retirement I'll enter into Rajya Sabha. तब तक तो बना ही देंगे अंग्रेज राज्य सभा. Wow. You never had political power, but now you are developing aspiration of bureaucratic power, judicial power, lawmaking power, executive power. Because he feels that one day Britishers will bring democracy in India. Because that is what the Britishers are brainwashing him with. Macaulay's Minute, 1835. Brown Sahib, the promise by the British to you people is that one day Calcutta will become London and India will become England. Oe hoy, oe hoy. Brown Sahib. Right? So he feels, nationalistically also he feels that British rule is good for India. That one day they'll bring democracy. One day they'll industrialize my economy. And selfishly, one day you'll be able to become bureaucrat and mantri also. So therefore, those sections who are benefiting from the British or those sections which are not negatively impacted by the British, they are not revolting. So we get bad marks in unity. We get bad marks in unity. Right? Unity is when you should be able to feel the pain of the others. Right? So sections aspect. Sections में, for example, मतलब ठीक है, इसको elaborate verbally मैंने कर दिया, ठीक है, that's okay. Army wise, for example, not all armies participated. Why? One thing worked very well for the British. Actually, joint exercises or joint operations by different regiments were not happening to a great extent. How do we get to know that? When we study the Peel Commission, which was like a consequence, a commission was set up for military reforms after 1857 revolt called Peel Commission. There they said that this joint operations which are not happening, it's a very good thing. It should continue. So therefore, at officer level, the different regiment officers, they should interact with each other. But sepoy to sepoy interaction, no. Because if that will be there, then feeling of brotherhood will be there. That my fellow sepoy has revolted, I will also revolt. By chance, that was not taking place between Bombay Regiment, between Bengal Army, Bombay Army, Madras Army. That is why when Bengal Army revolted, then they do not revolted. And second reason, that Bombay Army, Madras Army, they had a very heterogeneous composition. That means you are from upper caste, you are from lower caste, you are from X religion, you are from Y religion. So if caste customs are not being followed, so only you are unhappy. Rest are like, we are not revolting. So unity was not there. But in the case of Bengal Army, the Britishers, they had committed this mistake that by chance there was overall domination of upper castes. Rajputs, Bhumihars and Brahmins. They were the ones who dominated Bengal Army. So therefore, they were united in their grievance that our religion is under threat. So caste-based unity was much more there because of caste homogeneity in Bengal Army, whereas caste-based unity was not there in the case of Bombay and Madras Army. ये जो sentence अभी बोला, caste-based unity, 1 second. Evaluate the role of religious and cultural factors in fueling the 1857 revolt. So caste-based unity is a cultural factor. It is playing a positive role. Religion under threat, positive role. So religion played a greatly positive role in the revolts starting, right? So army, that's why army. In fact, Gurkhas and Punjabi army, they actively supported the British. Why? Gurkhas, they are passionate with respect to loyalty to employer. That's one aspect. Punjabis, they were taking revenge. The Sikh princes, they told the Sikh soldiers, who took our Punjab in 1845 and 1849 through the 2 Anglo-Sikh wars? The British. With whose help? These Bengal army, right? These Pandays. Now when their Awadh is taken over, they are revolting. मैं तेनू मजाक च खाना. Revenge. That is, you took away, our Punjab, and now you expect help from us. They're taking their old revenge. Regionalism. So bada mast hai. Regionalism here plays negative for us, but regionalism just 15 minutes back was playing positive for us, right? So Awadhi is feeling passionate about Awadh, positive, but here Punjabi is feeling passionate about Punjab, negative, right? So it played both kind of roles. Religion का भी ऐसा ही था. Religion 90% positive role, but 10% negative role. You know how? The slogan was, Hindustan is for Hindus and Muslims. That's why we get bad marks. Where? In unity, in equality. Because what do you mean by equality? You are French first, anything else later. First estate later, second estate later, third estate later, you are French first. You are Indian first, Hindu later, Muslim later. Right? So therefore you will get bad marks in equality aspect. So ideal sentence should have been, Hindustan is for Hindustanis. That's why not a first war of independence. Bad marks in this. Then, so army is covered, this is covered, right? Then comes strategy and tactics. One aspect, well, disputes are there. Veer Savarkar, who wrote a book in 1909, Indian War of Independence, fought for Swadharma and Swaraj, he has a thought. He says it was totally planned, and according to him, 30th of May was the date of revolt. And that's why he's not a fan of Mangal Pandey. Savarkar says that he was a patriot, but revealed the plan, gave early warning. He's not a fan of Meerut Sepoys who revolted on 10th of May. Plan. Why? On the left hand side, modern nation. On the right hand side, modern politics. Clear plan. Gandhi ji also always wanted controlled mass movement. जो प्लान किया वही फॉलो करना है. ऐसा चोरी चोरा कर दो, विड्रॉ कर लो. Plan is very, very important. Organized struggle. And any struggle which is organized, only they become successful. Right? So that's why. And वैसे मस्त बात बताऊं. Veer Savarkar says that Britishers, they try to test that which of the regiments will be revolting. So therefore, randomly, without any reason, many of them, they gave such an order between 10th of May, when the Meerut Sepoys revolted, and 30th of May. Right? Many of them, according to Savarkar, many of them, they gave such orders, which basically meant that randomly, without much cause, simply beat up civilian Indians. Go outside of the cantonment, right? Something, right? To check that whether they resist or they follow order, right? They followed orders. And therefore reports were sent by these people that all good in my regiment. And 10 days later, those very same soldiers following of plan, not revealing. Right? That's not the mainstream historian view. Mainstream historian view is that revolt was largely spontaneous. Only some planning was there, but largely spontaneous. That means no proper planning was there. Guerrilla war, sad smiley. Anyone from Bihar here? 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you know about Kunwar Singh of Jagdishpur? What do you know about him? तुमने तो पढ़ा हुआ. हाँ, तुम बताओ. हाँ, बहादुरी के बारे में जानते हैं. मतलब he knows about the courage. You? तो आइडेंटिटी के बारे में जानते हैं, बैकग्राउंड के बारे में जानते हैं, that he was जमींदार whose estates were taken away. You? यही उनको जाना चाहिए for his tactics. How is it? बहादुर कोई भी हो सकता है. How is it that an 80-year-old person is able to hurt the British the most? Why? Because tactics. He followed guerrilla warfare tactics. And world history, modern history, they teach only one thing, with respect to this thing, that whenever you are weak compared to your enemy, never fight traditional war with him. always go for what you call as guerrilla warfare tactics. That is how from 1808 till 1812 the Spanish people were able to defeat Napoleon forces. Although the traditional Spanish army was defeated, but the people, they engaged in guerrilla warfare tactics. That's why the word guerrilla warfare. That is how Marathas were, despite 1680 Chhatrapati Shivaji dying, despite Sambhaji getting killed in 1689, despite Rajaram getting killed in 1699, still by 1705 they began winning, and in the next 50 years they basically built Swarajya and Samrajya, a big Maratha empire. Guerrilla warfare tactics, right? Otherwise on paper they were weaker than the Mughals, and he followed guerrilla warfare tactics. That's why he was the most successful one. Right, Rani Lakshmibai is known for her courage, but not for tactics. Tactics was of this brilliant person, right? Jagdishpur ke Zamidar, Kunwar Singh of Jagdishpur, and his younger brother Amar Singh, I think was his name. Right. Second most successful was Tatya Tope. Why? He adopted guerrilla warfare tactics, but slightly late. Right. So it was our mistake from day one. All of us should have focused on guerrilla warfare tactics. That's why we lost. Next point is Delhi. So it was a big mistake by the sepoys that they all gathered in Delhi. So civilians are in different parts. Rani Lakshmibai ke andar, Begum Hazrat Mahal ke andar, Khan Bahadur Khan ke andar, Rohilla, double Khan, Rohilla Afghan. Do bar Khan, not Musalman. Afghan. Double Khan. Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, Dodo Khan, NWFV. डबल खान, ठीक है, ऐसा याद करने के लिए, है ना. खान बहादुर खान, रोहिल्ला अफगान, रोहिल्ला रोहिलखंड बरेली, हाँ, यूपी बरेली, ऐसा ना याद करने के लिए. मतलब ऐसा बाई चांस पैटर्न है दैट दोज हु वर अफगान्स दे यूज्ड टू हैव लाइक 2 times Khan in their name. I don't know whatever is the reason, but just for the sake of remembering, right? So civilians, they are divided in different parts. Localized nature, divided. And sepoys who really have the military training have all gathered up where? In Delhi. Right? That means if Delhi is defeated, revolt is defeated. Ideally, what should they have done? They should not have gathered up in Delhi. They should have stayed in different parts. अगर localized ही होना था तो खाली civilians को localized नहीं होना था, army को भी localized होना था. Localized मतलब different parts. That would have meant that defeat of Delhi is only 20% victory for British, not 90%. And once Delhi was defeated, so therefore, problem ho gaya. If they had stayed with us, they could have trained us. We were peasants, right? Civilians. We don't know how to fire guns or anything, right? They could have trained us that even if some primitive weapons, at least would have been better organized, right? ऐसा marching कराते हमको, ठीक है, बताते कि कैसे रहना है, कि अटैक होता है तो क्या क्या tactics follow करना होता है, even if we do not have best of the weapons, right? तो वो नहीं हो पाया. So civilians, they are untrained. We don't have training with us. Only they are trained. Weapons, civilians, they don't have weapons. Right? Even sepoys, they do not have any factories under their control that arms and ammunition supply addition can take place. Right? So that's the part. Britishers, they have telegraph with them. They have railways with them. They can move their armies very fast from one place to another. Orders can be given by a senior commander. And because of telegram, this thing will happen. So that things we are not having. Britishers, they have proper military organization. Captain, major, and all of that. Our army, are they organized like this? No. We are just like random. We don't have any ranks. And anything which is not done in an organized manner, so therefore our armies were not organized. So we get bad marks in organization. Right? Then we come towards planning for guerrilla war. Delhi ho gaya. So that's why. So you see, in many of the cases, was our goal democracy? No. Our goal was what? Restore Bahadur Shah Zafar to power. So we get bad marks in democracy. We get bad marks in republic. We are not fighting for republic. We are not fighting for democracy. Right? So we get bad marks. Right? ऐसा. तो इस तरीके से, हालांकि some positives are also there. Right? So when you mention positives, so with respect to planning, ideology. With respect to ideology, we get some good marks. If I talk about positives, okay, here I am writing down positives. ऐसा, simple. Ideology, fine, we do not have very refined ideology, but yes, anti-colonial sentiment or anti-British ideology was there. all of us, we felt that the British rule is immoral. Right? So dharm ki ideology thi. Dharm is not religion. Dharm is right or wrong. Morality, immorality. That ideology was there. ऐसा मत बोलो कि कोई ideology नहीं है. With respect to goal, well, one at least fine. Best of goal democracy is not there. But everyone this time was clear that we want British out of Hindustan, not just from our region. Right? So pre-1857 revolts mein, we used to be like limited to our region. Santhal saying, get out of Rajmahal Hills only. But this time we do not want them out of our small region, out of our village. Rangpur rebellion, 1783, we wanted them only out of Rangpur. Right? But this time it was like कि भागता चला जाइए फिर सीधा समुंदर आएगा उसमें डुबकी मारियो फिर जब तैरता हुआ सीधा वहां जाकर रुकना जहाँ इंग्लैंड है. ठीक है, तो मतलब ऐसा आउट ऑफ इंडिया. राइट? सो देयरफॉर गोल वाज देयर, दैट इज व्हाट यू कॉल एज out of Hindustan, and on this basis we get good marks in unity also, that we are caring for other people, other regions also, we get good marks in unity. Right? So it is unity also. Right? Goal, everyone was clear that Zafar should be emperor, koi dispute nahi tha, so we get good marks in unity. We get good marks in unity, no dispute. Right? Plan, well, some planning was done. Proofs are there of letters being written by one leader to another leader, like Jagdish Kumar Singh of Jagdishpur writing to Nana Sahib. Such letters are there. So we are not saying, so some planning was done. So don't give very bad marks in planning. Right? Program, that is like kind of like same. Organization, right? So some organization properly organized तो हम नहीं है, ठीक है ना, तो ऐसा. Strong leadership, so well, strong leadership was not there, but for the first time leaders communicated, मतलब some coordination was there, not perfect, but some coordination was there between regional leaders. So perfect नहीं है strong leadership, that also we agree. Unity among the members, where we were united that Hindustan, it is for Hindus and Muslims. So Hindu-Muslim unity was there. Right? Unity was there. Voice, so here for example, when Sepoys they came to Delhi, they gave out a declaration. काफ़ी सारे books में नहीं mentioned है, but like Americans have declaration of independence. Similarly, Sepoys का भी एक declaration था where they listed out the grievances against the British. Right? So find that kind of voice. Right? So ऐसा, तो उस तरीके से, तो some elements were there. With respect to democracy, here we say, माना democracy was not our goal. Lok Sabha represents democracy. Rajya Sabha represents what? Federalism. So these are the two pillars of overall democracy. So democracy was not there, but yes, federal spirit, federalism was there. Because we did not want pre-1707 Aurangzeb like absolute monarchy. We wanted post-1707 like Mughal emperor, who will be a weak center and actual powers will be with the provinces. So therefore, federalism ka spirit, it was there. Right? So on that particular basis, we can say that, okay, partially it was what you call as things. So much more than, what is the answer? Conclusion is much more than a Sepoy mutiny. But yes, not a war of independence. Right? Yes. क्या क्या? Symbol. Symbolism में, for example, there was what you call as chapatis. Chapatis moving from one village to another village to another village. British intelligence, they checked the chapatis, that one village watchman will bring the chapatis to another village. कुछ नहीं मिला, खिला के भी देखा, कोई नहीं मरा. So they could not understand. Historians have also not been able to understand that what is this chapati business. That is, a lot of chapatis coming from one village to next village. After some time, fresh chapatis to another village. So that was symbolism. That is, ये तुम्हारे अन्न की लड़ाई है, मतलब इकोनॉमिक वाइज, ठीक है ना, कि ये अपनी रोटी की लड़ाई है अब. दैट काइंड ऑफ सिनेरियो इट वाज देयर. हाँ, बाकी एक सिंबॉलिक एक और बताता हूँ, ये किताबों में नहीं है मेन स्ट्रीम में, बट दीन मीन्स धर्म. right? तो मतलब ऐसा सावरकर highlights this point a lot that cries were there of दीन मतलब धर्म, right? तो मतलब उस तरीके से religious cries were there, religious symbolism, and this economy वाला चपाती, ये वाला तो चीज़ था. Constitution was not drafted, but there was a declaration which was passed in Delhi by the sepoys, listing out only the grievances, not the future. So that is also one negative where we get negative marks in this thing, that plan. That is, you are revolting, but what's your plan? After this, what? Right? So there was no viable alternative. Alternative was only let us go back to monarchical past. So planning में we get bad marks. नहीं कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं, वो होता तो फिर मॉडर्न नेशनलिज्म होता, राइट? बट दैट्स व्हाई इट वाज नॉट, डेफिनेटली इट वाज नॉट अ वॉर ऑफ इंडिपेंडेंस, बट डेफिनेटली इट वाज आल्सो नॉट व्हाट द ब्रिटिशर्स से. ब्रिटिशर्स का नैरेटिव क्या है? ब्रिटिशर्स का नैरेटिव ये है दैट सिपाहीज दे वर स्टूपिड, दे बिलीव्ड सम फॉल्स रूमर. एंड व्हाट अबाउट द सिविलियंस? दे आर नॉट नेशन आउट ऑन नेशनलिस्टिक रिवोल्ट्स, मॉब. They called the civilians mob, doing mob violence. Why? Because narrative-wise, being the first democracy, they do not want to have this perception that they are repressing nationalism in any other country. So they used to have this narrative that India does not have sense of nationalism at all. India is not a nation. India is multiple nations together only because of us. Agar hum na ho, then India will get divided into multiple parts. In fact, Winston Churchill also said exactly the same thing, that tum dekhna, one day India will be divided into small parts. India is not a nation. The reason is their civilization is inferior civilization. If you look like me and if you speak like me, only then we are a nation. Otherwise, you are a separate nation. Very surface level. Whereas Mahatma Gandhi has said, Swami Vivekananda has said, that, and Minister of Foreign Affairs have recently, some years back, said India is a civilization and the present state which is ruling India is a civilizational state. And in civilization, there are multiple ethnicities, there are multiple religions, there are multiple languages, right? So therefore, and but ये इनको बहुत बाद में चमका. यूरोपियन यूनियन बनाया कि नहीं? The whole Europe is one civilization. Multiple languages, multiple ethnicities, ultimately बनाया है ना. एंड फॉरेन पॉलिसी में देखो ये एक ही तरीके से बिहेव करते हैं. यूएस, कनाडा, यूरोप, दे बिहेव एज वन. नेटो भी बना लिया. सो दे आर रीचिंग द लेवल ऑफ इंडिया आफ्टर वर्ल्ड वॉर टू, राइट? मतलब थॉट्स में. That's why there was this narrative that India is not a nation. यूरोप को देख लो, ठीक है ना? तो civilization है ना? So we'll meet after the break. After that we'll talk about the socio-religious reform. I've tried to do best justice as possible. इतने सारे questions तो नहीं discuss कर सकते, but basic building blocks plus this thing. तो kind of like master class. So उसमें masterly element वही था. That is not a simple what you call as question answer कि आपको मैं 4 क्वेश्चंस के आंसर स्ट्रक्चर वाइज बता दूँ. वो करना बहुत आसान है, बट द फोकस वाज कि किसी तरीके से थॉट प्रोसेस वैसा डेवलप हो. तो विल ट्राई टू डू दैट विद रिस्पेक्ट टू सोशल रिलीजियस रिफॉर्म्स आल्सो आफ्टर द ब्रेक ऑफ 12 minutes.
Does the vast syllabus of general studies for the UPSC prelims overwhelm you to initiate your preparation for the civil services examination? Is your apprehension and self-doubt coming in the way of your success in joining the civil services? Comprehend your preparation for UPSC Prelims 2025 with the fast-track course targeting general studies with innovative curriculum, revision and mentorship. Starting from 19th November at 1 p.m, the course offers coverage of UPSC GS Prelims subjects, dedicated mentorship support and guidance for performance maximization, access to PT 365 classes for current affairs preparation, sectional mini tests for regular assessment and performance, personalized student portal to access study material, access to live and online classes. Enroll today and make prelims your stepping stone to proceed to the UPSC mains. A strong hold over current affairs is your way to succeed in the UPSC Civil Services examination. Brace yourself and get detailed coverage of relevant news both nationally and internationally. With the monthly current affairs revision program starting from 26th October at 5 p.m. Enroll today and elevate your current affairs knowledge with comprehensive coverage of current affairs compiled through relevant sources such as the Hindu, Indian Express, Economic Times, PIB Yojana, and others. Expert support and personalized mentoring. Comprehensive assessment through MCQs and mains-oriented questions.
Right. One aspect is that consequence-wise, how did the British suppression of 1857 revolt reshape the colonial policies, right? So given the paucity of time, I'll give you a rough thing that topic-wise, it includes changes in the administration in the form of civil administration, and within the civil administration, police administration. So police administration wise, they brought Indian Police Act of 1861, whereby actually they were surprised that how our police failed. If such a revolt was taking place, why we were not prepared, right? So therefore, today like police system was brought by Indian Police Act of 1861. What is that system? From top to bottom, let us have professionals. So Inspector General will be the head of provincial police. In fact, the police was organized into a service called Indian Police Service. You may be a police officer, but you may not be IPS officer. You may be a SP, but you may not be IPS officer. What do you mean by service? Service means that कहते हैं ना, UPSC is not a job, it's a service. Usually people think that it is about, that we are givers to the society. We are givers to the society, but primary meaning of service is what? That before joining the job itself, what will be your career. At what level, what will be your promotion? At what level, what will be your salary? What is the highest responsibility that can be assigned to you? Right? That is the meaning of, being in the service. For example, and any organization can have a service. For example, Vision IAS can also have a service. Right? If by default everyone knows that in a predefined manner, there'll be promotions like this, like this, like this, and that is like concrete structure, it is there, from top to bottom. Tata Administrative Services, have you heard of it? TAS. So who said that private sector cannot have service, right? So the whole point is there can be forest officers, but there may not be Indian Forest Service. Is there any bureaucrats handling the work of education? Are bureaucrats handling the work of health? Answer is yes. But are bureaucrats handling the work of policing? But for police, you have Indian Police Service, but for education and health, you don't have Indian Education Service, Indian Health Service. And maybe in your good governance, you will read that some commission suggested that there should be Indian Education Service, Indian Health Service. And maybe after COVID, maybe the government could have taken a call that we are going to have Indian Health Service. And trust me, if another COVID 2.0 happens in our lifetime, don't be surprised that Government of India comes out with that mandate, Indian Health Service. That is throughout your career, you are going to work as health expert. The administrative part. Right? Maybe special qualifications will be given that those who have at least done, basic medical, right? So they will be given some preference, right? Like in the IRS, you can say that those who have done commerce background, उनको थोड़ा ज़्यादा preference मिलना चाहिए, हो सकता है ऐसा specialists आए, right? So police service was created, and the concept of provincial police, Mumbai police, Maharashtra police, Delhi police, Bihar police, this kind of scenario. So cadre based police, right, that came here. So IGSP SI, right, and operational accountability will be like this. This is operational accountability. Operational accountability means any intelligence operation is going on, any encounter is going on, any bandobast is going on. So therefore, there, the operation. For example, think of it. Iska best मुझे example लगता है. Think about a scientist, right? So therefore, Prime Minister of India would be having overall accountability. मतलब he will seek overall accountability from ISRO chief. But in that particular experiment or in that particular space mission, the operational accountability will be with the senior scientist, junior scientist, then so on and so forth. So ऐसा अंदर सोचो. So overall accountability, yes, you will be overall accountable to Chief Minister today, and at that point of time, the governor or lieutenant governor, right? SP will be overall accountable to district collector or call him DM, right? So therefore, this kind of structure, right? And the logic is simple. Why this many IPS officers, they feel bad. That's why when you clear IPS, then also you give exam again to become IAS. Why? Because that's why police officers, they want commissionerate system. Because in commissionerate system, this is relatively less. Right? The whole point of this is the person who you give gun, don't give him all the powers. Because power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. That kind of thought process is there. That's why civilians, they should always be overall bosses, not the people with guns. Right? So like in the Mansabdari system, those who had guns, they were also having civilian power. That's why those kind of systems, they are not good systems. This is like a relatively better system. Right? So therefore, Indian Police Act of 1861 created a hierarchy of professionals, and for the first time, from top to bottom, there were police officers. Earlier क्या होता था? It's not a mandate to discuss administration, but earlier this was there. Now this is not there. Daroga system, darogas are nothing but sub-inspectors, right? They used to report to district collector. Okay, so this is reduction in power of IAS and improvement in power of police, right? So aisa. Similarly, in the civil side, they ensured that exam takes place only in London, so that relatively very few Indians are able to give the exam, and therefore very few Indians are able to become IAS officer, right? Plus, they kept age limit relatively low. So quality of education in India is of this level. Quality of education in Britain is of this level. So it's not about IQ that we demanded more attempts or higher age limit. It is because the quality of Western education on the basis of which exam is going to be conducted in Britain, it is much better. So a 19-year-old is far more what you call as likely to clear the exam as compared to a 19-year-old Indian. Right? So therefore that kind of issue it is there. Right? So therefore that is the thought process. Right? So aisa. So ye hai. Then on the military side, they came up with Peel Commission. Right? So with respect to Peel, मैंने कैसा लिख दिया? So they simply learned from their mistakes and repeated their successes. So for example, one difference is there, uniform culture. Although uniform culture that is not respecting the caste, customs, etc. had contributed to the revolt, but there they still went ahead with uniform culture so that movies like Kesari can be made. In the Kesari movie, Akshay Kumar is not dying for Indians. Ultimately, his sacrifice resulted in what? Stability of the British rule. ठीक है, वो बीच में उन्होंने अफगान्स वगैरह डाल दिए, but otherwise he is basically protecting the British state. Okay, so ऐसा uniform culture. Uniform culture means your first loyalty should be to British, and your second loyalty should be to your caste. Right? Uniform culture, loyalty to salt. See how it impacts our culture. नमक हराम, नमक हलाल, जिस थाली में खाता है उसी में छेद करता है. Right? So this is all British, that you should be first loyal to your employer and not to your countrymen. Okay. Then, for example, regiments, inter-regiment interactions, they should be very, very less. Inter-regiment interactions were less, therefore Bombay Army and Madras Army did not participate, so continue it. Right? Then, heterogeneous mix. that is, don't have people from one caste totally in one regiment. So yes, even if the name is Jat regiment, even if the name is Rajputana rifles, there at officer level there is no reservation for these communities. First point. And at the lower level also, it is not 100%. Right? It's like, let's find a middle path so that you are ready to die for the honor of your caste, but at the same time you should not be able to revolt. तो मुझे आपकी मात्रा उतनी लिखनी है ताकि आपको ये भी लगे कि ये राजपूत रेजिमेंट है, सिख रेजिमेंट है, जाट रेजिमेंट है, बट उतनी भी नहीं रखनी that you start revolting or you get the confidence to revolt, right? So heterogeneous mix needs to be kept. Then ratio of 1:2, that is for British to Indian. So for every 2 Indian sepoys or for every 2 Indians, there should be at least 1 British. Right? So yes, Britishers in the civil administration, British were never working at the lower level, but in the army, Britishers were sepoys. Right? So therefore 1:2 ratio needs to maintain, because that ratio was skewed in the case of Bengal army. That gave a psychological confidence to Bengal army that they are less in number, we are more in number, let us revolt. Right? Cantonment system, cants. That is, keep the civilian population away from the sepoys. So you are there with your wife, your children, but in the cantonment. Your life is there only. Any one of you has been in college campus? Residential college campus? Anyone? So there what happens? Your life is limited to campus. खाना भी कैंपस में, सोना भी कैंपस में, उठना भी कैंपस में. सो एक नई लाइफ है, बस वो कैंपस के अंदर है. आउटसाइड एरिया पता नहीं, वो कभी कभी जाते हैं, बट अदरवाइज एवरीथिंग इट इज देयर इन द कैंपस. सो देयरफॉर यू आर नॉट वेरी अटैच्ड. सो थिंक ऑफ कैंटोनमेंट सिस्टम लाइक कैंपस सिस्टम, दैट योर लाइफ इज विद इन दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी, योर लाइफ इज विद इन IIT कैंपस, योर लाइफ इज विद इन NIT कैंपस, दैट्स इट. राइट? सो ऐसा, तभी तो जलियांवाला बाग हुआ. Keep the Indian sepoys away from politics. Don't let them read any nationalistic newspaper. Right? So cantonment system. That's why in 2023, when Indian decision was taken to gradually disband the cantonment system, the newspaper wrote that cants are relic of colonial era. Because the reason for the creation was this only, so that Jallianwala Bagh like things they can happen. General Dyer ne kaha fire, enemy fired. Very weird. Why? Because brainwashing will take place, loyalty to salt, generation of Akshay Kumars, plus cantonment system, right? Aisa, this kind of scenario. Then they also came out with system of reward and punishment. So they came out with concept of martial race. It was their bias actually. Actually, it's not race. Racism had a scientific basis also. Flawed basis, but scientific basis. That is, racial experiments were being done in Europe in late 1800s. Hitler ऐसे ही racist नहीं था. There were some scientists who used to say that success in life is determined by DNA. Concept of Aryan race and all. Right? So racial sciences were rising in post-1850s era in the scientific terms also. Right? So they came up with the concept of martial race, that Jats, Gurkhas, Afghans, Sikh, Rajputs, right, and some others, right, they are martial race. Recruit them and don't recruit Brahmins, don't recruit others. So Brahmins are being punished in that particular sense, right? Aisa. And martial race are very courageous, great fighters, very loyal, but brainless. That's their view, not our view, their view. So they will never revolt. They are incapable of leadership. Their bias. How? I'll prove. Azad Hind Fauj. Indian National Army was set up by Captain Mohan Singh, not by Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. So therefore we proved them wrong. So as per the Indian system, there is no racism. Everyone can be a Kshatriya. Everyone can be a good fighter. As simple as that. But it is their bias. Right? Plus, they maintained a very large standing army. Standing army is that army which is there even when war is not there. Now, this is bad for our GDP. Because if we are paying 100 rupees as taxes, then roughly 45 rupees of that were spent on army. Why? So that just in case if we revolt, then very big army is there which can be used very easily to repress any kind of revolt. Right? So therefore these are the civil changes, police changes, this change, right? And sovereignty wise or politics wise, this change was there. That symbolic sovereignty over India was taken over by Queen Victoria. So Victoria became sovereign over India. So Bahadur Shah Zafar, that's how becomes the last Mughal emperor, right? So this kind of scenario. India was divided into two parts. British India was ruled by what you call as Governor General or British, whereas there were 571 princely states where domestic rule was of Indian prince. So look at the word prince. Prince is not king. Prince is Rajkumar. Mummy, Papa are king and queen. So who is mummy? Queen Victoria. So Queen Victoria adopted 571 children in 1858. Prince ho gaya na wo, है ना? That is loss of sovereignty, right? And Britain is here. Anyone from Hyderabad or Andhra Pradesh? No one? Khair. Andhra Pradesh was here and Hyderabad, Telangana was here. That resulted in creation of Telangana in 2014. People of Telangana said that because we were ruled by Nizam, so therefore we did not get whatever limited benefits which these people were able to get. So although you are also Telugu speaker, I am also Telugu speaker, but our history is different, right? So therefore there is disparity in our economic profile, right? So therefore they had the demand of Telangana fulfilled in 2014. So therefore this is how long standing impacts are there of this thing. Okay, so that is what is like happening here. Now coming to the second aspect, so civil ho gaya, ideology, very high racism now. Social reforms will not take place now. So no social reforms. Convergence will stop. That is, convergence will stop. But only in plains. In the tribal, the plains people, they were the participants in the 1857 revolt. Only in the plains the conversion stopped, not in tribal areas. Northeast will be continued, converted into Christianity. Plus, Birsa Munda revolted in 1899, roughly 42 years after 1857. And on what day he revolted? 25th of December. Christmas. Why? Because one grievance was of convergence, right? So they did not stop conversion all over India, but they stopped where? So those behaviors which are punished are not repeated. Those behaviors which are not punished are repeated. As simple as that, right? So that's how they operated. So khair, ye hai. Very high racism and very high authoritarianism. So khair, ye hai.